Today's episode contains conversations of murder, suicide, violence against women and children, and other topics that some might find disturbing. Listener discretion is strongly advised.
Shadows creep, the clock strikes 3. Whispers hum through the old oak tree. Secrets hide where the moon won't shine. Oh. Is it a chill or a ghostly breeze? A knock, a tap, what do you believe? Ghosts, gossip gather around where the lost and the haunted are found. Gossip don't make a sound. Truth or tales, we'll dig it out.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Ghost Gossip, where every creak whisper and chill down your spine is just another story to tell. Today, we're heading down into the heart of Texas, where the heat isn't the only thing that lingers. In this episode, we explore a house that is shrouded in mystery, with a past that refuses to stay buried. Today, we meet Brian, the owner of the real-life house that was the inspiration for the novel Ghostwritten. Get cozy with me, or don't, and join us as we uncover the haunted secrets of what might just be Texas's eeriest house. Because here on Ghost Gossip, the dead don't keep their secrets. They like to tell their stories. I hope you enjoy. Oh, hello.
Oh,
It's good to see you. Actually.
yeah, it's good to meet you. I'm very, very happy to be here. I'm so glad that you're having me on. It's exciting, so I appreciate it.
Yes, very exciting. I've been following your house for a little while, and I'm just like, this is very cool.
I'm glad that you took interest because the story is actually amazing. It's incredible, and this all resulted in a nonfiction or a fictional horror novel. So I'll talk about that kind of at the end, but yeah, I'll tell a little bit about the backstory because it relates to I think it relates to the hauntings of the house. Almost like I was kind of called to this house, and I'll explain all that too. It's pretty interesting. It's pretty wild, actually. So,
Well, as somebody that used to own a haunted house, I totally understand that.
okay, yeah. It's like because when we bought this house, it was one of those things where I loved the house instantly. Like I felt connected, and I'm like, told my wife, I'm like, this is it. This is the house. And
Yep,
like,
you just know. You walk in and
yeah,
it's like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah. And so, we never expected, we always loved the paranormal and all that kind of stuff. But, and we always wanted to own an old home. We actually go down to Galveston, Texas, which has got a lot of history down there. And we lived there for about a year. Unfortunately, we didn't have an old home down there. We had a new home that we bought, but it looked old, so it was kind of cool. But we always wanted to own a historic home, and when we found this one in Fort Worth, it was just like, we just fell in love with it, and but we never expected it to be haunted. We never expect that to be your house, right? It's always
right,
somebody else's house.
right.
So yeah, and I'll talk about that too when we get this started. Are like, when do you want to start? You just want to start now,
Yeah, we're
or
just going to jump right in. Why don't you tell me who you are, what you do, and why we are here?
okay? All right, let's go ahead and start. Okay, so my name is Brian Bateman. I'm going to go ahead and just talk a little bit about who I am really quick to kind of, because it's very, relative to the story. So I used to be a stay-at-home dad. My wife, when we were both working full-time, we had two young boys, and her career started taking off. And once my daughter was born, it was just like basically I was working to pay for childcare. So she traveled all the time. She was always gone. So, I'm like, it only makes sense for me to stay home with the kids instead of paying somebody else to raise your kids. So I was lucky enough to be in the opportunity to be a stay-at-home dad. And what happened when I was being a stay-at-home dad was I found that I needed something to also do, though, for me. So I've always been creative. I used to be a musician, and once that stopped, and I got married and had kids, I ended up writing comedy for a radio station in Cincinnati, Ohio. It's called 700 WLW AM. The guy I wrote for, his name is Gary Burbank. And it was like a dream come true. I mean, I could write comedy. I was good at it. He bought stuff I wrote, so I was getting paid. That lasted for like early 2000s to 2007. Once Gary retired, though, I was so bummed because like it was like something got ripped out. Like I had no outlet for my creativity anymore. I couldn't get paid, and so that's the year in 2007. I got a four-leaf clover tattoo on my wrist. I got the tattoo because it's like I felt like I needed luck for another writing gig, but I also got it as a reminder of I'm not in such a bad position in my life, right?
Right, right.
Do you lose me?
Oh, are you there?
I'm here, yeah. Can you hear me?
Hi, welcome back. Okay.
Okay, I will tell you, I am running on an Ethernet connection right now. And for some reason, anytime I do these podcasts, I don't know why, but we've had some weird things happen. Just sometimes on your end. So you may experience some weird technical issues on your end that you've never experienced before. It's happened almost every single time I've done an interview.
Yeah,
So,
I have had things. I understand. I
okay.
understand.
And my wife actually has worked on this computer before and she's zoomed and everything. It's had no issues. It just seems like when I talk about this story, yeah, it's like you
Hmm.
mention their names, you start talking about their names, and then things happen.
Yep,
Um,
you can kind of summon them into the room, like, oh, you're talking about me again.
yes, yeah, it's pretty wild. But so anyway, so moving on. So yeah, so the that job was dried up. I was kind of bummed about it, but whatever. It is what it is. So moving to 2024, when we bought this house, like I said, I felt really connected to this house pretty much instantly. Now we did know that somebody had passed away here. I think it was Martha that we found had passed away here. Martha lived here from 1957 until 2009. And she, I think I was just doing like a general search on the property or something, and somehow an obituary came up. And I found out that she had passed away in the home October 31st, 2009, which is Halloween, interestingly enough. And she actually loved Halloween too, apparently. So but that was the first death that we found out about the house. That was before we moved in. It didn't freak us out really that much because she wasn't like 93 years old. Now,
Right. So, I mean, and people die in houses. That's
yes,
just a fact of life.
they do. Yeah, especially old houses.
Yes, exactly.
So, but my wife and I talked about it. I'm like, does that bother you? About it, where she's like, oh, I hope it's not haunted. Ha ha ha. I'm like, it's not haunted. You know?
Ha ha
Yeah. Ha, ha,
ha
ha.
ha.
So once I got into the house, I started, once I felt that connection, once I found out about this is who the story really is about in a way. But I felt the connection to the house, but I started doing research, and then I also found out that a guy named Harold Monroe, who was a former writer for the New York Times, for the Fall River News in Massachusetts, home of Lizzie Borden, who he actually saw as a young man while walking down the street being taunted by children with the Lizzie Borden chant. I
Yep.
saw that article, and I have an article about that in the paper.
Yeah.
Um,
You
where
sent it to me.
yes, okay. So but when I found out that he was a former writer, and I looked at the date that he had passed away. He passed away on St. Patrick's Day, 1977. When I found out he was a former writer and he died on St. Patrick's Day, and I was a former writer who got this tattoo of a four-leaf clover, it was almost like I then became obsessed with, okay, that's pretty weird. That's a weird connection. And so I started really getting obsessed with the research of the house. This is also after we had a few things happen too, which I'll kind of get into the hauntings that we've had happens, the little paranormal things that have happened. But so when as I'm researching, we had things happen in the house. So, but this is when I found out about the other people that had passed away in the house. The first death in the house, I'll just start with the deaths, was a guy named Alicia Morford. He died January 18th, 1914, most likely in our bedroom. He was a former Union soldier for the 68th Infantry, Indiana, Company C. I'm trying to find a picture of him. I know there's got to be one out there that I'm going to put on my wall if I find it. But yeah, he actually was like 75. He had come down with some other family, and they were, I believe, the first occupants of the house. It was two couples, a young girl and great uncle Elisha or Alicia. Um, So that was the first death that we found out. And then less than 5 years after that, a lady named Anna Lubbock Kennedy passed away, most likely in our bedroom as well. And she was a daughter of the Republic of Texas. Her dad's name was Thomas Saltus Lubbock. Named, you hear Lubbock, Texas?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, Lubbock, Texas is named after her dad, Thomas. So she passed away again, most likely in our bedroom, December 26th, 1919. And her father's one of his units in the Civil War were called Terry's Texas Rangers. Terry's Texas Rangers actually fought against Elisha Morford's unit in the Battle of Chickamauga, and in a couple other battles in the Civil War. So it's just kind of wild that we had a Union soldier in Texas die, and then a daughter of a known Confederate, and she was a Confederate too, obviously, die in probably the same bedroom in less than 5 years. And they had, family ties that battled each other. You know what I mean?
Right, right. That is an odd, I mean, especially and in Texas.
Yeah, and in Texas. And on his death certificate, which is interesting, they spelled his last name wrong, and they said he was married, and they said he was an Irish immigrant. He was none of those. He was actually from Claremont County, Ohio, which actually my dad used to teach school in Claremont County, Ohio. I used to live in Cincinnati, Ohio. So there was a weird Claremont County connection. I literally lived across the bridge from Claremont County when I lived in Ohio, and that's where he was born.
Wow.
But I think they might have kind of lied on the death certificate. I can't figure it out because he was a former Union soldier down here in Confederate territory. So
Right.
if they thought there might be some repercussions for that if they found out who he was, or that maybe they just spelled the name wrong at the death certificate. I don't know. But those are the kind of things that you start investigating and trying to figure out. And so it's an ongoing thing that I'm still researching every day, trying to find more information out about the house and the people that lived and died here. But then moving on to the next death, that would have been Harold, March 17th, 1977. That was in the family room. He died of a heart attack. And then October 31st, 2009, Martha was his wife. She passed away in the family room of old age. Now, in 1984, there was a gentleman named Walt Julian who moved in with Martha after Harold passed away. And he was kind of her husband. They never got married, but he had lived with her from probably 1984 to when she died in 2009.
Ooh, scandalous.
Yes, yeah. So
Yeah.
and Walt was apparently a player too. I've got some interesting stories. Yeah.
Walter.
He apparently drove trucks.
I thought you were going to say drove the ladies wild there for a second.
He was a ladies' man for sure. I actually have a picture of him from a next door Halloween party that our neighbors were like, they were kind of his caretakers. They really loved him, and they would hang out a lot. And I got a picture of him dressed up as Hugh Hefner for Halloween.
All righty then.
Yeah.
Get it, Walt.
So, but yeah, Walt was the last death in this home. This is the room Walt passed away in. Actually, I am sitting in the exact location where Walt's body was found. The bed was actually right here where I'm sitting at this piece. I'm sitting in a piece of furniture. I'm coming to the guest room because my router's in here, and I plug it into the Ethernet. So it's just like, I thought this would be a good place to broadcast. And this is actually also, we have these little cat balls. I don't know if you've seen these that go off. If they get tight.
Oh yeah.
These will go off when I do live ghost tours every now and then. And when I start talking about Walt, those will start going off. So those are the 5 documented deaths in the home that we know of. Now I'll get into the paranormal stuff that we've experienced, and like, what was the first thing that we had happen
what was that first thing that you were like, that's weird?
My dog.
Oh yeah, they are a surefire way of, they know
you hear
things.
about that. You hear about that, and you're always like, yeah. But no, it's definitely true. They can see and experience things that we can't perceive. And so my dog had always slept in our bed at our other previous homes, no problem. He had a dog bed on the floor. He would sleep there, But when we moved into this home, he wouldn't sleep in our room. He would actually last till about 10 o'clock. And then he would go out and go to the front of the house in the TV area. We have a little TV room now in the family room. It used to be one giant room, but the guy that renovated the house put a wall to separate another like little room, and we use that as the TV room. And it's nice to have a little room you can shut off in the front. But so he would always go to that room every night, and then in the morning he would come back and wake us up for breakfast or whatever. And it got really annoying because he'd be walking around at night, with the nails on the wood
Yes,
floor.
all the click, 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 click.
Yeah, yeah. And you're trying to sleep. And so I'm like, we finally just put him in our bed because he would sleep in the room as long as he was in bed with us. And to this day now, we still unfortunately have to keep him in our bed, but it's better than him clicking around all night, walking around the house, waking us up. And so, but yeah, that was the first clue that we had something going on.
I am sensitive, and your house, ever since you came on, my ears are going nuts. So it's like, and it's
Do
so
they
like when
ring? Do your
I,
ears ring?
they ring, but right now they are pulsing.
Interesting. When we had the paranormal team in this house with the medium, her ears were ringing. And are your ears ringing? My ears are ringing too at the same time. So it was really weird where, yeah. And, I've actually had my hearing checked. I don't have tinnitus, even though I was a musician, my hearing's, okay. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, that was kind of wild where we both were hearing this ringing in our ears.
It's
Thanks.
not ringing. It's just it happens when there's a lot of energy.
Interesting.
And it happened in my house all the time, and I don't have it in this house anymore, but ever
Mhm.
since you logged on, it's been just a steady like I'm almost underwater in a submarine.
Interesting. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. This house has a really, really weird, strong energy. The mediums, she's been here twice, and both times she's been drained like the next day, like her
Yeah.
energy. So I'm not sure if that's affecting our energy or, I don't know, but nothing negative has happened here. So, but again, the dog was the first thing that happened. The second thing that happened was a curtain in our bathroom was pulled back, like somebody was peering out the window. My wife was walking in the backyard towards the house one day, noticed it like somebody was like looking out at her. So we did the whole debunking stuff. AC wasn't on. There was no wind that day. My animals weren't in the bathroom that day because the doors were closed. We went through everything that we could to figure out, how that happened, and we couldn't figure it out. Interestingly enough, the medium said that there's a man after she came that peeks out the window and is back there in that room. We didn't tell her, so yeah. So
That's
apparently,
interesting. Yeah, when they tell you things that you haven't told them and you haven't
yes.
talked about, it's like,
And the
okay,
paranormal team made sure they didn't tell her anything about our home when she came. You know how they tell you not they don't
yes,
they didn't tell her anything. They swore by her. And I was so skeptical of the medium, honestly, because
yes,
like these people are just, but then she didn't charge us. It was like they do this for free because they're actually
yes.
really interested in this. And they actually want to help get answers of who's here and why they're here. So,
Those are the ones that I believe the most when they have nothing to gain from it.
yeah,
And
yeah.
they're like, just like my friend Jessica, who is my medium friend, like she'll just, like she texted me the other day and she goes, what's purple? What's going on with purple? I had not even told anybody I had put purple in my hair the night before and I
Oh, wow.
hated it. And I had spent that hour scrubbing the purple out of my hair and it just made me laugh. So, like, people like her, and I mean, I hadn't even talked to her. And this was this week.
Oh, no. Oh, there you go. You
There you
broke
are.
up for a second. All right. All right.
Yeah, the
Um,
spirits like the color purple, I guess. They're like, well, you should have left the purple. Or maybe
yeah.
they're like, you heathen, you put
Yeah.
purple in your hair.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So you kind of understand too. Like, if somebody came in and wanted to charge me, I'm totally skeptical of anyone that wants, I don't charge paranormal groups to come into my home because I want to find out what's going on. Like, I don't, I'm not here to necessarily, try to exploit the home, but it's just such a cool story and an interesting story that it's just like I feel like I'm compelled to tell this story, and I don't know why I feel compelled so much to tell the story. It's like we were talking about Harold earlier in the connection.
Mm-hmm.
He when he worked for the New York Times, he actually had a front page story. I'll tell you that that's another. I could get in the weeds on a lot of this stuff. I'll try not to get in the weeds because there's so much stuff. But he actually the guy's name used to be Prince Carlisle. That was his original name,
Like
and
first name Prince, last name Carlisle.
yeah, and he was born in Massachusetts. He,
Hmm.
ended up writing for the Fall River News when he was like 18 years old. That's when he
Oh,
settled
wow.
it thing. That's how he got into writing, was actually in Fall River. But
Huh.
yeah, it's feeling him almost like guiding this, like, but yeah, he had a front page story about DuPont apparently inventing nylon in 1939, and after he broke that story, his name was Prince Carlisle. He had a wife. He had three kids. After that story broke, though, something happened and he went missing for like 3 years. I had the article about him missing and then finally finding him in Texas. And he had changed his name to Harold Monroe. So he basically left that family out east and changed his name, his identity, and started a new family here at my home in Fort Worth.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So one of the mediums thinks that he might be here because this is like his good deed to help me to find my voice and my creativity, but also get his name back out into the public if the book does well.
Oh,
And then he can move on.
okay. Well,
That's one theory. That was from one medium. That's
right.
another story. I talked to somebody on a completely unrelated thing. He was from California, and it turned out that we ended up starting talking about books, and I was talking about the book I was writing, and he ended up saying he was sensitive, and he actually started talking about Harold Monroe. Yeah. So that was
And
really
he didn't know about Harold before? Okay. Well,
no.
Harold wants to be known. I wonder if Harold's the peeper out of the back window or the bathroom window.
I don't know. It is a male. We're trying to figure out who, is in the bathroom. And also there's supposedly a grumpy old man in our bedroom as well.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah. And it's not me. It's not me. I can
I was
assure
gonna
you.
say.
No, it's not me.
I had to banish my ghost out of my bedroom. I was like, you cannot come in here. Like you gotta stay out of my bedroom, dude. Like,
Yeah.
because he would just kind of like linger over my bed when I was sleeping, and I'm like, I don't like that.
I don't like that either, honestly.
No,
I don't like
stop.
somebody thinking that they're in my bedroom. And then also the bathroom is right off of our bedroom. So it's just like we had two male presence, in such close proximity that are two different entities, and like it's pretty, but again, it's nothing as bad has happened.
Right. Nothing negative. It's just there.
It's just there, yeah. And so after the curtains, the next thing that happened in the house was my wife was working in the kitchen one day, and we had this little plastic dog bowl that we use when we take our dogs on vacation, the little travel plastic bowls that collapse on you.
Yeah, yeah.
And we had one in the kitchen that I don't know if we were just giving our dog water in it or something. It was in there, it was empty, it was just sitting on the floor. And my wife's in the kitchen working, and all of a sudden hears this noise and looks, and she sees this dog bowl, and actually it's wobbling, and then it spins, like a real fast spin at the end. And she was far enough away from it where there's no way she kicked it or so she was very startled, called me immediately into the kitchen and told me what had happened. We tried to figure out if she had kicked it, but no, I mean, she was far away from it. It said far enough away from it. There's no way she would have made contact with this thing. And it's supposedly in the kitchen, we have two spirits. One is a residual haunt of a person named Viola Evers. And then one is Martha, who likes the kitchen and thinks that's her space and doesn't like when we are in the kitchen. And not that she doesn't like us, but doesn't like us in her territory.
She is a typical old school woman who, when she was in the kitchen, everybody out. She was busy. She was doing her thing. That was her place.
Yep. That's exactly what the medium picked up on. So since she died on October 31st, we started calling her the kitchen witch as a joke.
I've seen you post about the kitchen witch.
Yeah, supposedly that's Martha.
Oh, Martha, with the brick. Does the kitchen witch like the brick?
I think so.
Okay, good.
The kitchen has been kind of peaceful lately, so it hasn't been too bad, right? But so here's the crazy thing. So the second time the investigators came out, they had a bunch of equipment set up in the kitchen. They had the REM pod. They had this LED strip on the floor where if you step over it, there's where you step over it and it stops.
A rope light type deal.
Okay. Yeah, he had that down. And then the man from the team was in the kitchen, and then his wife, who's part of the team, and the medium and my wife were back in, I think, our bedroom. And they had the little thing that talks and says voices. It said, "The witch is here." As it said, "The witch is here," the stuff in the kitchen, the REM pods going off. Joe, who was in the kitchen, it's just like, wow, wow, and they investigate a lot of places. They didn't know about the kitchen witch. My wife's like, oh, wow. She's like, we call Martha the kitchen witch. Like, we think it's Martha because, again, Martha lived there from 1957 to 2009, right? She was the longest resident in this home in the history of this home. So we were kind of just stunned, where it was like almost like, ha ha ha, the witch is here. It wasn't in a bad way. It was almost in a mocking us way.
She was playing with you. She's like, I hear you. I know what you call me.
Yeah.
That's funny. My ghost called me a hag.
A hag.
I'm like, all right, well, I leaned into it and I got a shirt made.
Yeah, you don't look like a hag, but
I mean, I try not to, but some days are harder than others,
Yeah, I hear you. So that was the kitchen thing. And then also the medium, when she was here, told us of several animal spirits. There's apparently a German Shepherd in this house, spirit of an animal of the German Shepherd, who just wanders the house. So, I told you about my dog and how he doesn't sleep in the floor,
Mm-hmm.
my bed. Walking in the kitchen, I'm going to turn on the porch light. And as I'm walking back to bed, I hear the nails of a dog walking behind me on the wood floor. I turned around really fast and there was nothing there. So I was so confused because I'm like, wait, did my dog jump down off the bed? Because if he jumped off the bed, he could get hurt. He's a dachshund. So he's got,
Right.
the back and the legs and, the jumping off the king size bed is kind of a long, long jump. And he never jumps off the bed. But I figured, like, I'm like, oh, maybe he got behind me somehow. I didn't see him, but it didn't make any sense. I would have seen him come towards me, or I would have heard him coming into the kitchen.
Right. Right.
So I kind of picked up the pace, to the bedroom to see if he had fallen off the bed somehow or whatever. But he was sound asleep on the bed, and my dog Molly was sound asleep in her cage. Yeah, I called my wife immediately after that one too. Like anything that like is really crazy, like we always call, or if she's out of town or I'm not in the house or in the room, she'll call me in the other room where something happens. We share pretty much everything now of anything that's kind of odd with each other.
Yeah.
Also, I don't want her to think I'm crazy, but she's experienced stuff. She's experienced stuff too, so she knows I'm not crazy. So
Right.
it's nice to at least have somebody that lives here with you that also experiences things. So it's just like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, okay, just another thing.
Oh, I totally get that. Living
Yeah.
through it, I totally understand that.
Oh yeah, and then the residual haunt in the kitchen I told you about was, we think it's Viola. Viola lived here from the beginning. She unfortunately had colon cancer. Because I found out on her death certificate how she passed away. So 2 weeks before she died, she actually took a train up to Indiana to see her sister and ended up dying at her sister's home, visiting her. I think she probably knew she was going to die and probably was just wanted to go home. Indiana was her home. She actually was buried in Anderson, Indiana. Interestingly enough, I had family in Anderson, Indiana that I used to go see when I was a kid. When I
Oh,
lived in,
wow.
they lived in Anderson their whole life. My uncle worked for GM in Anderson. He met his wife in Anderson, and it's such a small like town in Indiana that it's just kind of weird that she was from Anderson, Indiana. I don't know. Again, just a coincidence, maybe nothing to it. But with the Claremont County thing with Alicia Morford, and then now the Anderson, Indiana thing with Viola Evers, it just
Yeah,
seems like,
all the connections is it's weird.
yeah. And then the four leaf clover. It's just like I've really, since moving here, really kind of, my mind's been open to a lot more than it's ever been before. I'm a lot more. I listen a lot more, I think, to people now. Now that the medium, I'll tell you the story the medium hit on that really convinced me that she was legit in a minute. But now that I know, I think, she's definitely legit. I can't wait for them to come back now, because now I'm going to really listen to everything they have to say. So Christmas Day, this is another weird one. Christmas Day, my family's over. I have adult kids. They were with their significant others, boyfriends, girlfriends. We're just celebrating in the dining room, doing our thing. My son had placed a plastic water bottle on the coffee table when he came in, just a regular Dasani, like drinking, water bottle.
Hmm.
And when he was going to leave, he noticed the water bottle was actually upside down. It was on its cap. Still had water in it. And he kind of shook his head like, okay, who did that? And didn't really think too much of it. But then my wife's like, wait, who did that? We always kind of keep a lookout for weird things. So the first thing I'm thinking is it's my other son that did it, because he knows that we were experienced. And
Messing with you. Yeah.
but I made sure I drilled them all. I said, look, I'm documenting all this stuff. I'm putting it out there in the public, and I don't want to lie about anything.
Right.
Like, at
Yes.
all.
Right. So if you did this, go ahead and tell me before
Absolutely.
I document it.
And I'm, I'm always joking around, but they know when I'm serious, because it's like I joke around all the time. So when I don't joke around, they know. They swore up and down none of them did it. Interestingly enough, the medium also said we have what's called an elemental in this home in the family room.
Oof. Mm.
She said she thinks the elemental was responsible for that, because it's mischievous. She said that's the only thing in the house that she thinks that we might want to try to somehow get rid of. But
That gave me chills. Elements of the land, entities of the land, they scare me.
all right. Oh no.
Yeah, they when you have elementals, that is a different being. That is a that
Yes.
you're not dealing with a person that used to be alive. You were dealing with the
It's something
land.
that never like existed kind of on the
Exactly.
plane. Yeah, like she said that the first visit, right? And
Oof.
that's what I didn't believe a word of it. I didn't believe a word of it. I was like,
Yeah,
elemental.
whatever.
Trying to wrap my head around. I don't even know what the ghost thing is yet. And now you're telling me about something called an elemental, right?
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly enough, we do live on Comanche land. This used to be Comanche territory here in Fort Worth. And I even got into the true crimes that have been committed that we found out on our street yet, but it's almost like this whole entire neighborhood is cursed. And you wouldn't believe some of the stuff that's happened in this neighborhood over the years. Like I've discovered not just stuff on my street, but on the street behind me and the other streets. We found out about history of dark satanic worship, gangs, several murders. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say murders, but
You can say it on the podcast.
um,
I'll have to bleep it for YouTube.
okay, yeah, yeah. Isn't that weird? Wow,
It
like
is so weird. I mean, it's not like you're talking about doing it. You're just talking about history.
it's history. It actually happened, and that's the word that's used to describe what happened. So it's just like, just by changing the words, not going to change the history. And I actually think it's important to talk about that history because just because somebody was a victim of a crime doesn't mean that their name should be buried. Doesn't mean they
That's
should
right.
be forgotten. And it's like people are afraid to talk about that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? But it's like
Hmm.
they were victims of a crime. It's not their
Hmm.
fault. They shouldn't be forgotten. So, me talking about this, I don't know. I just it's like validating their existence in a way. You know what I mean? And just keeping their names out
It's
there. So
yep. It's keeping the memory alive.
yeah,
It's
I
yeah.
think that's
I agree.
important. Yeah.
It is.
So anyway, we've had TVs turn on and off. In this room specifically, my wife was walking by one day. The cat ball is going off, called me in, said, "Hey, it's going off." And just like 10 o'clock in the morning, And I come in, the cat ball is going off, but then it stopped and it didn't go off. I left, went back to the TV room. She did her doing her thing, walks by the room a little bit later, ball's going off again. This time she doesn't call me. She's coming in the room and we have the TV on. We have a frame TV that we always display art. It's always on. Even though it's only us two, we always keep it on. It just looks cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It
It's
looks
like a
nice.
picture hanging up, right?
Yeah. I get
So,
it.
but to shut that off, you actually have to hold the power button down on the controller for like 2 seconds to completely shut off the TV. If you just press it once, it just goes to TV mode. So if you
Hmm.
hold it down, then it turns off. Well, the TV turned off while the ball was going off.
And the ball, was it near the remote?
The ball, yeah, actually, it was kind of near the remote. The remote we keep on the little end table right there, and the ball is behind me. So she was kind of like, okay, that's weird. So then she did call me, back in, and the TV shut off again. After she turned it back off, the ball was going off, the TV shut off again. And I'm standing there. All of a sudden, it's just like, you talk about the energy. The
Yeah.
energy was so weird in this when that was going on. It was, and then it just lifted, like you could feel it lift, and then
Hmm.
the TV stayed on, and the ball didn't go off. Like for
Hmm.
the rest of the day, couple days, week, the TV's never shut off again in this room that we know of. Yeah, so that was definitely an interesting thing in this room. And we are going to definitely focus more now on this room during the next investigation because for some reason we didn't really investigate this room for the prior two investigations. I'm not sure why, but we just ended up more in the kitchen in my bedroom. But yeah, so that was another weird thing. We've had the TV go on in our bedroom once, just once. My wife was in that room and the TV's just walking around. The TV just turns on, and the TV remote is in my nightstand. That was kind of an interesting thing. And then, as far as other paranormal things, I mean, we've had a whisper of someone saying hi. I've heard that was in the den where the TV is. Like
Did
where
you hear it with your own ears or did
I
you catch
did.
it on a record? Okay.
We caught two hays on a recording in my bedroom where they're like, "Hey."
That's always
Um,
so weird. Yeah.
yeah, it's
Like,
a
oh.
definitely. It sounds like a man. I think they're all men, but the high was definitely a man. My dog Molly was sitting in the TV room with me on the side of the couch with her head kind of hung over. I'm sitting in the corner, and so this is earlier in the day. She looks over the corner and she barks. She's like, "Roof," and just jumped down, went out of the TV room, and wouldn't come back in. So I grabbed my phone
Molly said, I'm out, yo.
Yeah.
This is all yours.
Yeah, and
Enjoy.
so and she had never had a problem in that room. She never had a problem going in, nothing, right?
Your
So
dogs are like, where did you move me to?
yeah, I know. It's poor guys, you know. So yeah, so I grabbed my phone and I was calling her like, Molly, come on, Molly. And she was like looking up in the sky and the ceiling, and she'd come backing away, and she would not come back in the room. Long story short, later that day, she did finally go back in the room. She's in the same spot. I'm in the same spot. It's quiet, and that's when we both heard hi. And she looked at the spot where she barked at earlier. I looked at the same spot she looked at. It came from, we looked exactly at where the sound came from, right? So because I'm thinking like, okay, was this outside? Was this, what was this was somebody that said hi. I mean, it, you know, of course the hair on my arms were standing up. I called my wife. I'm like, you won't
Yeah.
believe what just happened. So I told her about the dog stuff previous to the hi. Interestingly enough too, you know, we had two deaths in the family room up in that part of the house. We don't know exactly where the people passed, as far as the location, but when the ghost person was here, the paranormal team, she came out with a lady named Julie from a podcast called Haunted AF here in Texas.
Yeah, I've
And,
heard of Haunted AF.
okay, yeah.
Hmm.
Julie came out from Haunted AF, with Rose, from the paranormal team. Interestingly enough, this is like, you know, the first time they came out before I heard this whisper of the hi, and they said in that TV room on the spot where we heard it, they felt this really strong energy, both of them. So I don't know, but that's interesting because then months and months later, you know, that's where the dog had the experience, and then we heard the hi. That's another room that we need to really investigate, but unfortunately, that's kind of the animal room where we have to hide the animals all away because I can't afford to go to, you know, take them to a, you know, like a boarding place or any of that, you know, unless, you know, that would be the only thing I think if somebody, you know, would pay you to maybe pay for a hotel for us to go take our pets down for the night or something like that, you know, that may be the only thing I would ever charge somebody for, because I know sometimes people like to have the empty house.
If they had complete access,
Yeah,
I get that.
but I live here, you know, so it's just like, I don't
You're
know.
nicer than I am because I had people that wanted to investigate my house when I lived there and it was no. But once I moved out, we did investigate, but I did not, my guy was angry, so I didn't want to live there and piss him off.
Yeah.
So I waited till I moved out.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yes.
I don't do investigating on my own. I will say that it kind of freaks me out, honestly, especially if my wife's
Yeah.
gone all the time. She's always out of town. So it's just me usually here. I don't want to like really bring that. Now, during the ghost tours, I do mention names and stuff, and the cat balls as far as I'll go. Honestly, I'm not going to get
Right.
that. I do have an EMF detector. I tried it. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was just like, the thing was,
EMF can get triggered easily by the
by cell phone
electricity.
and
Yeah,
cell phone too,
cell
right?
phones, electricity,
Yeah.
TVs, anything that has power or is that receiving a signal that can trigger EMF. So it is very unreliable on its own. So you
Mhm.
have to pair it with other things to
Yeah.
really kind of get a good read.
Like Rose was using her equipment in airplane mode, I believe.
Yes.
And then she has like one of those things that does the voices that's not even connected to anything. I
Yes,
think.
it's just a box that's
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
So they, you know, they try to do things to prevent the false triggers as well, which, you know, again, I don't really know a lot of this stuff. So, you know, I just kind of leave it to them. The only reason I called them, I actually reached out to a bunch of paranormal teams just to try to figure out what was going on here and make sure, like, you know, yeah, maybe there is something to this and we're not crazy. We wanted somebody's, you know, outside their, you know, an outside perspective.
Some validations because
Validation.
when you're living in it, you do feel crazy. You
Yeah.
start because I mean the energy can cause anxiety, but when you're experiencing these like little like movement of things or noises, and it's like, is this in my head? So when somebody else, especially from outside, says no, there is something going on, it's like,
Yeah.
okay, phew.
Yeah. It's just, so it just makes me feel better. And that, and also knowing that really, other than the elemental, nothing is here that, you know, is going to harm us. And then the elemental thing again, it's just, she's talking about a shaman and all this stuff. But
Yes. Yeah.
so Dave Schrader's people, actually, he has some friends that might be coming out. They're in Alabama, I think. So being in Texas, and it's hard to coordinate all this stuff, but they're
Right.
talking about actually bringing a Native American with them when they come here to investigate someday. So it'll be
Get them
just
to look into your corner where your clock is.
okay.
I don't know. I've been told that I'm a medium. I will not call myself that, but I swear there's something in your corner.
I mean, it would surprise me.
I'm just wondering,
Yeah.
I keep looking right past you to that corner and the light has shifted a few times back there. So just I'll
Okay.
look back when I'm doing the
Yeah.
video, but
Yep.
that corner just keeps catching my eye.
Interesting. Yeah. I did a tour with a group called Louisiana Spirits, and somebody was a sensitive on the call. I had no idea. And she
Right.
started throwing some insights on some things, which was interesting because again, I won't get into the weeds, but she said some things that were almost like, yeah, wow, that kind of makes sense, and it's cool, like just doing these because, like you said, you just kind of felt something with that clock. The clock is like an antique. It's from the 1800s, late 1800s.
Hmm.
It's from Germany, actually. We have a lot of antiques in our house, like a lot of antiques. Like,
Yeah, that light around that clock just shifted hard.
interesting. Yeah.
It's so weird. It keeps moving. It could just be Zoom, like, and that's the thing. Like, it
Mhm.
could just be Zoom. It could be when
It
you
could be.
move, but it is like I am looking at you and looking right past you, and it's like, and my ears are still throbbing. So I don't know. It could be nothing. Maybe I need my ears checked.
So this is kind of cool though, because like doing this now, and these kind of things happen though. Is what I'm trying to say. Like
Hmm.
every time I do one of these, something weird happens. Either like so I'm redoing a whole Zoom interview that we did with a guy last week in England, and he got the whole thing done, and for some reason the footage, something went haywire. Yeah, and he was like, I've never had this happen. I've done over 300
Yep.
podcasts. I've never had this happen.
My
Uh,
episode of the Sally House. I'm not sure if you know what the Sally House is. It
is
is
that
in
the one in
Atchison,
Kansas?
Kansas.
Kansas. Yeah,
Yes.
I've heard of that. Yeah.
It was so good. My husband and I mean, I do the research on everything. We recorded it. It was really good. I went to edit and it was corrupt. I have never had that happen before.
Yeah.
And we had to do the whole thing over.
Yeah. It's yeah, interesting. It's like somebody's like sometimes they don't maybe want to get the story out. I don't know, or interfere just for fun, or the energy interferes. I don't know.
I don't know. Before we go on, you said Elijah at one point.
Yes.
So my kids, because I am the weird mom that does the paranormal stuff, they have picked up some of my traits and they think this is cool sometimes, other times it's scary. Well, our son has a spirit talker app on his phone, and the other day, a couple days ago, he got the name Elijah.
You're kidding me.
Nope. And I'm like, I don't know an Elijah. And so when you said Elijah, I was like, and then he also got the name Helen. So is there a Helen?
Yes.
Are you serious?
Helen. Oh my goodness. Helen. Helen is Helen Smith, Anna Kennedy's daughter. She lived here.
Oh,
Helen.
shit.
Yeah. So Helen Smith and Ed Smith. Helen was Anna's daughter. Ed was her son-in-law. They moved in here with Anna probably in 1917, and then she died in 1919. But yeah, Helen
So
Smith was her name, and she did live here.
when did we schedule this interview? Was it Sunday?
I
It was
remember.
this weekend, correct?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
Because that is when it was Sunday morning when he got those two names.
Okay. Well, there's definitely an Elisha. Yeah, I mean Elisha especially. I mean that's such an odd name. Helen. Yeah, Helen. But
Helen's
still,
Helen, yeah.
there is a Helen history here. So yeah, interesting.
Oh, he's gonna freak out when I tell him. That is so cool. Sorry to interrupt.
No,
Before
no,
I forget.
no. This is fascinating. So interrupt when
Wow.
you keep going. When anything you want to say something, just say it.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
okay. So I think I've pretty much covered most of the paranormal experiences that we've had happen since we've lived here. I'm trying to think of anything else that's happened. I think that's pretty much it. Now I'm going to start getting into the crimes that we discovered.
Ooh.
This is when you'll have to start doing your beeping.
So the crime. Let's get into true
So,
crime.
as I'm doing all this research on the house and meeting my neighbors and getting to know my next door neighbors, we're really good friends with our next door neighbors. They're awesome people. We love them. Actually, all of our neighbors are great. So we're really lucky with the surrounding neighbors. So next door, I learned from the guy that lives there now. In 2017, a guy named Sam went into the backyard and he shot himself in the head. He was a veteran. He apparently had like a lot of medical issues, a lot of pain. He was on, I think, some, you know, I don't know, oxys, or I'm not sure what he was taking, but apparently they cut him off of his medication, and just for some reason he couldn't take it anymore and decided to go just walk to the backyard and shoot himself. The person that moved in next door actually bought the house in 2017. They knew of the suicide. They pretty much gutted the house, redid the whole house. They redid the backyard. It's a beautiful backyard, but it's pretty wild when you go over there knowing exactly the spot where they found his body. It's right by the pool that they put in. And Sam was good friends with the wolf. So they used to hang out together a lot. So Walt, you got to remember, lost Martha in 2009. Then he loses his buddy Sam by suicide in 2017. And that had been really hard on him. Like, I need to jump back to the medium really quick because this is kind of part of the Walt story. So after Martha died, Walt ended up moving in another lady who had terminal cancer. This is where the medium, where I cemented my relationship of believing the medium after this story. We were in the bathroom, which used to be a bedroom. It used to be a sleeping porch. But when the guy renovated the house in 2023, he actually made it into the main bathroom right off of our bedroom, which our bedroom used to be the guest bedroom. It wasn't the main bedroom. I'm in what used to be the main bedroom right now, which we now use as our guest bedroom. So she was back there in the bathroom. And when the lady had lived there again, it was a bedroom. So, there had been a bed back there, and I knew exactly where her bed was because my neighbor had told me, because he had actually, apparently she was a pretty big woman and incontinent and just sick and just horrible just conditions for her to live back there. So the medium said, I sense a lady named Doreen is here. She's suffering, she's sick, she has heart problems, and yeah, her name's Doreen. And so we knew, like, there had been a lady that lived back there that was on hospice. So we're like, wow. And my wife was like, I think her name started with a D. And so I'm like, she asked our neighbor, it's like, what was her name? And he said, her name was Dolene, Doleen. The medium said Doreen. I said, did she have heart issues? He said, no. I said, I don't think so. She had terminal cancer that she wasn't treating, and she was just actively dying back there. She didn't end up passing away. I think she passed away at the hospital. So she didn't pass away in that room, but was close. She was definitely on death's door back there for a while. And then, so then later that day, his wife texted and said, actually, we just remembered Dolene had 1 or 2 open heart surgeries.
By the way,
yeah,
she did have heart issues.
And there's no record of her. There's no record of her. Like, you can't find. Google her. She was just kind of just a non-existent, face of, they're not in the public eye, just back there, kind of in a room. You know what I mean? Like, you can't look it up. You can't. There's no way she could have found that. So after that happened, I'm like, okay. That's when I started like listening more about the elemental stuff. And
I wonder if it's your cat ball going off behind you, if that's what I'm seeing.
I don't know. I'd have noticed.
There was just light flickering behind you, so that's what I'm trying to.
Okay. I don't know.
I don't either. Sorry.
Oh, that's all right. So, because sometimes it will go off when I'm.
I just saw something like bright behind you, so I'm like, what is? Oh, sorry.
No, anyway. That's okay. But yeah, so
I have a question when you get back to the guy in the backyard.
Okay. So yeah, so that's the Dolene story with the medium. And again, she had lived here. So after Martha died, Dolene moved in here at some point and lived here with Walt. I think he probably brought her in because she probably had Social Security,
Whoa.
Maybe add to the, help him out a little bit, because he actually was not, this house was in bad shape. I mean, the foundation was just, the house was, sloping. It was,
And did Martha not have any kids? Like,
she did,
but Walt got to stay in the house.
Yes, she put him in in her will. She put him in as he can live here rent free for the rest of his life. I don't know how that went with the family.
Yeah.
So I think there were some issues with the family and Walt, and I think they also had a falling out.
I bet.
I try to stay out of all that drama, man. It has nothing to do with me.
Has nothing to do with you.
So, but I know there's definitely probably a history there, but that's why we think Walt's still here, though, because he did really love this home. And also with Sam, I've actually ended up meeting Sam's wife because I'm in a group, ghost group for the neighborhood, where people post stuff that happens in there. Like, this is the largest collection of historic homes in the Southwest United States where I live in this neighborhood.
Oh, okay. Wow.
That's awesome. Like homes from 1890 to about 1930. Those are the majority of the houses in this neighborhood. And it's an incredible neighborhood. When you walk through it, it's just like you're walking back in time. All these craftsman style bungalows and four squares, and they have the Victorian, kind of the tail end of the Victorian era, so you'll see some Victorian influenced homes, just a lot of really, really cool houses. And then on the couple streets over, they have mansions, like big, huge mansions from the 20s, which is pretty cool too, that you can go over and check out. So it's a very interesting, diverse neighborhood for sure, because like my house would be considered kind of a working class middle class kind of house. It's 1,600 square feet. It's not a big house. It's a craftsman style bungalow is the style of it. But yeah, so the neighborhood, it's there are other houses that have had several experiences and hauntings. So at some point, I'd like to do a true ghost story book for the neighborhood.
Right. Just a collection of all the stories in the
Collection of all the
neighborhood.
stories, yeah. So that's also in the plans of another book that I'd like to do someday. Again, with a creativeness now, I have this whole creative spark again, where my mind now is racing and of what I can do to create and this amazing scenario. Really, this story is just like it seems like it was handed to me, and it's my responsibility to tell the story and do something with it.
Right.
So that was the suicide next door in 2017. On the other side of our house, we found out in 1911 a 16-year-old girl named Irene Lauterbach passed away from typhoid fever. She was 16.
Wow.
Yeah, that had to have been very hard, obviously, on her family to lose a 16-year-old. And that, our house was built in 1911. That happened in 1911 next door. That house is no longer there. It burned down in the 70s, I believe.
Okay.
And was rebuilt in the 80s. And back then, before this was a historic district, you could build basically whatever you wanted. So it's kind of a nondescript from the 80s that doesn't really necessarily fit the neighborhood.
Right.
But it is what it is. But yeah, so that house had ended up burning down. So 2 doors down, I found out in 1998 that a grandson was living with his grandma and his dad at grandma's house. And grandma decided to, I guess, had enough of him and kicked him out. And he didn't want anything of that. So he beat her to death with his bare hands. 2 doors down, 1998. They also found satanic symbols in his room.
Well, that's not ominous at all.
Yeah. Yeah, they found satanic symbols in his room. They never really said if it was related to Satanism.
Right. That was right in the middle of the satanic panic, too.
It could have been like he was a Motley Crue fan. It could be like putting the pentagram on your whatever. So I don't necessarily know. I haven't studied that case. I just know what it's in the paper. That's all I read. Just what's public. So, but yeah, that obviously was a very horrible incident, and I think Martha knew the lady. Yeah,
Probably because she lived right there.
2 doors down, right? So in 1999, a couple doors down from that house and across the street, a double murder occurred. These people that lived there were in their late 60s. They had owned a rock and roll club on a street over not too far from here. And in 1999, somebody busted through the back door and bludgeoned them both to death. It's an unsolved case here in Fort Worth.
Oh, wow.
A block down from that, in 2020, a mother who was hearing voices telling her to kill her daughter or something worse would happen to her, decided to slit her daughter's throat,
No.
dump her in a trash can.
Oh, my God.
And then she called 911 and said her daughter was missing. They came out, the police, everybody came out, and then she just admitted what she did, said that I was told that if I didn't do this, something worse was going to happen to her. She's serving like 50 years in prison right now, I believe. But obviously she was mentally ill. Our system, unfortunately, we don't treat our mentally ill. We just let them just do their own thing, and I don't know. That's a place where I can't walk by without getting my hair, the hair on my neck stands up. I get goosebumps. I sometimes feel almost like teary. That one really, really bothers me. When it's a child, it should bother everybody, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That one, that's dark. That one, I mean, they're all dark, but that one is just, when it's the child, it's always, child and elderly always get me.
Yeah, like Lily. Her name was Lily. She was the one that was beaten to death. She was in her 70s. And then, and that girl was 4. So it's just like
4.
Yeah, she was 4. The little girl was 4.
Oh, no.
So we found that out. We also found out in 1914, that, did you freeze? You there? Oh, okay, all right.
No, I'm just processing. I'm like overwhelmed. I'm like, oh my God.
Now you can see why, like, when I talk to people about this, like there's so much, like it's so hard for me to process it, because it's just like this all happened within walking distance of my house. You know what I mean? Like
it's like on the block. It's just
like, and I can tell you about things that I found out behind the street behind me. I mean, I could go on and on and on. I won't. I'll just focus on,
There's literally blood in the land. I mean, there's literally, it's blood soaked land.
Yeah, it's definitely there's definitely a dark history for sure. Let's see. In 1914, a kid named Ray Roberts was hunting squirrel with his buddies. They ran across the street. We lived right by the railroad tracks. Like, so across the street from our houses, but then across the street behind that is the railroad tracks. So like, we always hear the train. We actually love the train sound. It's just, it reminds me of just like the old town, and it's.
And once you live near it, you get very used to it.
Oh yeah.
I used to live next to one, and I mean, it was almost like comfort.
Yeah, it is like comfort noise now. It took a while to get used to it because it can be loud, man, because it's close, right? Yeah. So, anyways, Ray Roberts accidentally shot himself in the head on top of a boxcar. So he fell off the boxcar to the ground. I think died like 30 minutes later. But his friends ran to my home. I don't know why they ran to my home. Maybe it's because they saw it, the light was on. I don't know, but I have an article about a guy named Frank Wise, who was the servant of the house, who lived back in the back house. We actually used to have a back house where the servants would live, and then they'd rent it out after, that didn't happen anymore. Like
Right.
the movie The Help. It was kind of like The Help, you know what I mean? And they lived back there. So Frank lived back there. He actually called the ambulance from my house in 1914 for the kid who ended up passing away. And then in 1923, there was a huge explosion and fire on my street right by my house. A couple houses were destroyed, several were damaged. Nobody was killed in that incident, but it destroyed. And like across the street, to the house across the street, and then two houses over from that was one of the houses that was actually damaged. And I actually know those people, so we've been over to that house before, and I told them the story about the big fire. So yeah, it's like I said, almost like the streets almost like cursed, and not just the street, but the neighborhood. I also found out that, again, there was a history of satanic worship. I heard a story about a gang member that actually killed his mother with a brick in the street on a few streets over. And then a year later, in the same spot, somebody was shot in their car and lit on fire.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's a few streets over. This is all back in like the 90s, early 2000s, typically.
So not like back in the 1911s, like some of the other stuff. Some of this is quite recent, 20, 25 years.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So in 1990, they designated this a historic district. So once they did that, then you couldn't build whatever you wanted to build. If you had to rebuild a house, it had to look like it was built in the time. Now, and a lot of people have come in and they bought these houses and they're fixing them and they're renovating them. And, we have it's a pretty diverse area with a lot of kids, but also a lot of older people like us, empty nesters, that have just come and found a really cool old house that they always wanted to buy. And, here we are. But yeah, the history again, it always, makes me question, is there something to the Comanche thing? Is there something to them possibly cursing this land because of the settlers that came here? The Texas Rangers actually started because of the Native Americans attacking settlers. They were started to protect the settlers, in this area from those attacks. And then that's when the Rangers and the Native Americans start battling each other. But yeah, the Comanche history here is pretty wild. But yeah, so we're gonna start investigating some of that history as well, with some other paranormal investigators, like the ones I was talking about with Dave Schrader's people, who might bring the Native American guy. So yeah, it's pretty interesting to see, some of the things that are, ahead, lie ahead, that we could still continue to find out by investigations and just living here. The last thing that happened here was the cat ball going off on a TikTok live tour I was doing, where I've also asked names to the cat ball, and it's hit twice with Martha, where I went through a list of names, then I got to Martha and it goes off. That did happen twice, specifically mentioning Martha. So the book.
Yes, let's talk about the book.
Okay, so the book. So I knew this was something that I had to tell somebody. Like, this is a story, this is a movie, it's pretty crazy, right? So I had to do something with it. I said, my first idea was I was going to write a screenplay and write a movie. I've never written a screenplay. I'm a comedy writer, so I write sketches, I write one-liners, I write
Right.
parodies. I don't need too much structure when you write comedy as far as, you know, make sure your paragraphs are a certain, I don't know all the ins and outs of actually writing that kind of thing, like a book. I would never have that ability or skill set. And
I gotcha.
I'm not afraid to admit it, right? But the problem was I needed to find like a screenwriter or somebody. But then I'm like, okay, the screenwriting thing seemed like it was a very difficult thing to even get somebody to listen to your story, that you could get them excited about a potential of a franchise, like a horror franchise, honestly. But that turned into, hitting brick walls time and time again. I contacted so many people, and it was just like they were wanting to charge you like $20,000 to write a screenplay, that necessarily might not necessarily even be picked up by anybody. And I'm like, nah, I'm not doing that.
Yeah. Like, no, pass. Keep
no.
on going.
Yeah, keep on going. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing to promote the book, with the podcast and things like that, and just try to get the word out that way, because I can't afford that.
Right. Like
So,
most people can't.
no. So that's where the book idea kind of came, right? So I'm like, okay, let's do a book. And I wanted to do a true story of what I just told you, like book. But when I approached the author, we didn't have enough material for like a book. So she's like, let's do, how about we do a horror novel, and take the real stuff that happened, and kind of intertwine it into the book, put little things like the dog bowl wobblings in the book, the curtains being pulled back in the book, there are a bunch of things that are in the book that happened in the house for real. And then we also took the inspiration of the crimes that were on the street, and then we just fictionalized those and, made it scary, like not, and it's scary on its own, but the book, it's like The Shining, The Conjuring, Haunting at Hill House. It's been compared to Poltergeist even, and it's a very
Hill House is another level.
Yeah, hopefully you get a chance to read the books now, because especially now that you know the backstory, you'll be looking, you'll be like, oh yeah, okay.
Oh yeah, it's in my cart.
Okay, cool. So, but the funny thing is, I hadn't talked to Jen in over 30 years. The reason I knew her was I had worked with her, and her brother actually was a musician, and we had crossed paths several times just playing music in Cincinnati. So I knew him, but I'd never really talked to Jen ever. I didn't talk to her ever, actually. But I knew that she wrote children's books. And because at some point I found out that she had written children's books. I'm like, oh man, I got to support her. And I bought all her children's books, just even though I didn't have kids at the time.
You support your friends.
Yep. And now I'm going to work. I think I give those books away, but now I'm going to order them again because they're kids' books. And my daughter just got a job as a teacher. So I'm going to put those books in her classroom.
Oh, well, congratulations to her. That's awesome.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's exciting. So the book, as far as what we did, is we turned it again into something that was just real. I mean, if the book was real, I wouldn't be talking to you right now, because I wouldn't live in this house. Let's just say that, right? So
gotcha. So the book is way scarier than the actual reality living there.
Yeah. And I'm like, thanks, Jen. I have to only live here. Now I have to think about the old lady ghosts doing this to me. And anyway, so when I approached her, she basically laughed at me and said, no.
No.
She said, I hate scary stuff. I hate ghosts. She's like, don't send me anything from your house. Don't send me any orbs or any whatever.
Oh no.
Like, no, I'm not writing this. I am terrified of this stuff. She writes children's books, and then she also writes like rock star romance novels, like nothing to do with any of this kind of stuff. But I wouldn't take no for an answer. I felt so compelled that I'm like, you're the one that's going to do this. I'm like, we're going to do it. It's going to be great. I don't know exactly what we're going to do. We're just going to kind of wing it as we go. So she finally agreed, and it's a 318-page horror novel. It's on Amazon right now. And it took 8 months from start to finish.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so the book, again, I knew she was the one. And so she finally agreed, and man, she went crazy. Like she went like the stuff that
it unlocked something in her she didn't know existed.
I told her, I'm like, maybe you are a horror novelist. Maybe this is something that right now she's writing one of her books for herself, but I think she's agreed to do the second one that we're going to do someday that I already have outlined. So I hope to develop a long-term relationship with her. And so, because I have 5 books planned, I can't write them myself. She's going to have to help me write these. So, we'll see. But she did tell me that this book sold more in 2 weeks than all of her other books combined.
Oh, wow,
So,
that is awesome. Yeah, it is in
yeah,
my cart. I already have it in there. I'm
great
not big
job.
into horror, so that's my hang up because I'm not a
Yeah.
horror person. So that I've been
And
like,
a lot of people
oh.
aren't. Yeah. And I'll tell you what, there's a part in this book where I was like, Jen, my mom's going to read this. I'm like, I don't know if I feel comfortable, not just with my mom reading this, but even other people reading this. Because there's a part in this book that's so dark. It's the whole book's dark. It's actually,
Right.
it's like, I think she did a great job. And I was shocked, but we debated whether to keep that part in or not. And I'm like, we're talking about it right now. You're talking about it right now. So let's keep it in because then people will probably talk about it as well. So there is a part in the book where I'll just warn you, it's disgusting. It's absolutely gross, dark, disgusting. And I apologize. I didn't write
I
that.
apologize in advance, okay?
Yeah.
All right, well, good to know.
Yeah. But that's pretty much the story. I mean, there were actually several. A crazy thing too that Jen, when she started writing the book, we wanted to have an Irish theme for the book. So my character,
Naturally.
yeah. Considering Harold passed away on St. Patty's Day, and I have a 4-leaf clover tattoo. So we actually released the book on March 17th. The Kindle version is $3.17. So we did that to kind of honor Harold. And
Nice.
yeah, because it's just like I said, it's pretty fun to experience all this stuff in a way, where people think it's like always scary, but it's also amazing at the same time. So like, I just feel so inspired by him and his presence here that like I just always talk about him a lot, and it's because it's such an important part of the story. But Jen made my character. So the book's about a former comedy writer from Ohio who moves to Fort Worth, Texas, into a haunted house and discovers a manuscript about Lizzie Borden, and then
Oh,
does a deep dive into the history of the house and finds out that 5 people died here, and he also finds out that the real crimes and murders were committed on the street. That's sound familiar?
that sounds quite familiar
Yeah.
in the past hour, yes.
The main character's name is Ryan O'Connor.
Instead of
And
Brian.
instead of Brian,
And
Ryan.
O'Connor, keeping it Irish.
Been at Irish, right? Jen made my character have a 4-leaf clover tattoo on his wrist. I'm not lying. She didn't know I had a 4-leaf clover
She
tattoo.
didn't know that. Okay.
So
Because I was thinking like she saw it or she knew.
no,
Oh, wow.
I hadn't seen Jen. I actually went to Ohio a couple months ago to visit my family. And so I actually invited Jen out to see one of my buddy's bands play. And she actually came out. That's the first time I saw her since I'd worked with her in the early 90s. Yeah. So that one, when she said that, I was like, I immediately took a picture of it and I sent it to her. I'm like, you will not believe this. I'm like, how in the world? She's like, I don't know. I just thought it would be kind of a hip thing to add for your character to have a 4-leaf clover tattoo.
That's crazy.
And then she also made the character in the book, my daughter, her character's name's Amelia in the book. And she made Amelia have a Grover doll. That was her favorite little toy, is Grover for Amelia. And Grover is obviously an older kind of doll. It's not an Elmo. It's,
Right.
well, my wife actually, her favorite toy as a kid was Grover. And we actually have a Grover in our closet right now. That it's my wife's Grover from when she was a kid.
Oh,
Again, why did you, out of all of the toys and things that you could pick, you picked Grover?
of
And that
all
was
of them. Right.
cool. So the tattoo thing and then the Grover thing, and then I think there were some other really weird coincidences that we had happen too when we were writing the book. She got really deep into the satanic stuff. And I was like, I don't know if you should get deep into the satanic stuff. And, but then after talking to a neighbor, after she already had written the book, he came over because he was telling us some of the history of the neighborhood as well. Because they actually own a haunted house in the neighborhood. And that's how we connected. So he was telling me about their experiences. I was telling him about ours, but that's when he told us about the dark satanic history in the neighborhood. And a lot of satanic worship was going on in the late 80s, 90s, early 2000s. So it's almost like Jen picked up on the satanic aspect of the book, because I didn't really want to get into the satanic stuff too much, honestly, because I haven't experienced anything really like that in this house. But she felt compelled to really go hard on the Satan aspect of it. And when I found out that there was actual Satan worship going on in this neighborhood, it was kind of like, wow. So that actually it did happen, and she didn't know. She didn't know. She only knew of the possible satanic history of the kid that killed his grandmother.
That is so crazy. I
Yeah.
mean, it just makes you wonder, like, is she sensitive? Was she just picking up on things? Or maybe are the spirits that are in the area, because they can kind of put things in your head sometimes and they can compel you and
Yeah.
make you feel certain things. It's like, did they do that? Or, there's just
I don't
those
know. It's
little
like, yeah.
idiosyncrasies.
That's why I'm like so convinced Jen's the one for this whole thing, right? Because like she obviously is connected some way to this whole thing.
She fits into this puzzle somehow.
Yeah. And so I'm just happy that she's open now to the second book. She still hasn't committed, but she's definitely open now to it. And
Good.
that's all I can ask for, because I think we actually have something here that we can really continue to develop, as far as a franchise, a series, there's so much material here, and it's, oh my gosh, it's overwhelming. And this is the stuff I've just discovered since I've lived here. There's probably way more that I haven't even uncovered yet. You know what I mean? Because this neighborhood's
Hmm.
huge. But yeah, like there's the street behind me. There was a father that murdered his wife and then ran to the train tracks and committed suicide. That was the street behind me. In 1910, I believe, a 3-year-old was killed by a streetcar behind me.
What's crazy is I was going to ask you if somebody died on the train tracks.
Yeah, yeah, he committed suicide on the train tracks after he killed his wife. And that was on the street behind me. Another couple murders on the street behind me, I found out. Yeah, and I haven't really gone too hard in the investigating the next street. I'm just focusing on my street for now. And I'm sure there's still stuff on my street I haven't even discovered that's happened. Like for instance, I forgot to tell you, 3 doors down from me, I did find out that a guy passed away in his bathtub in the back apartment house. They didn't find him until like 3 days later. And the reason they found him was because the water was overflowing from his tub and it was dripping down from the
Ew.
apartment, and it was actually going through the alleyway behind the house.
Oh no.
When they found the water trail like going through the alley, that's when they knew something was wrong, and that's when they found the guy's body. I don't know anything other than what I was told by actually who told the lady that lived next door. I was talking about Sam, Julie, his girlfriend or wife, who I talked to, was the one that told me that story. That was another death that was 3 doors down that I forgot to tell you about that we found out about. So that's pretty much it. That's kind of where we're at, and that's the story.
Well, Sam, where do you know where he shot himself? Just curious.
As far as in the head, I believe.
So when you were talking, I got pain right here.
Okay.
So that's why I was wondering, because it was like a sharp pain right next to my eye. And
Hmm.
I was like, why is my eye hurting?
Interesting. Yeah.
Well, it is a lot. That
Yeah.
is a lot. Like that is, I found out a lot about my haunted house, but nothing like that. I mean, because I was overwhelmed with the information that I was finding out from his sister and neighbors and stuff like that. And it was overwhelming, but it wasn't anything like dark or murders or suicides or anything like that. So that is, I mean, that is crazy.
Yeah.
And it is the perfect setting for a book.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I was like, this is a book. This is a movie. This is and that's now being a creative type. It's given me a newfound direction in my life, because I was kind of searching for, what do I do now?
I totally get that. I was a photographer for a really long time and I did that on the side and I got so burnt out dealing with people and doing pictures and usually it's all family and the dad doesn't want to be there and the kids are screaming and running around and I'm just like, being an empath, I was like, this is so draining and I hate doing this. I needed that creative outlet, and then I didn't have it anymore voluntarily because I quit doing it. And then I moved into my haunted house and I've always been sensitive. I've always had experiences, but once I was in my house, I was like, I want to do something, and hence where the podcast came from.
Interesting. Yeah.
Hmm.
Interesting.
Gives me my outlet, especially as a stay-at-home parent.
Isn't it such a good feeling as a stay-at-home parent to actually have that you can now
Hmm.
get that creativity out, and it can be, it's like, it's amazing. It's such a great,
Hmm.
it's changed my life. This house has
Hmm.
changed my life. And
Yeah.
it's something I never expected to ever happen in my life. I never expected to move into a haunted house and write a book.
Hmm.
There's no, you talk to me 10 years ago and say, hey man, you're going to have a book out. I'd be like, how?
No, I'm not.
I don't know how the hell to write a book.
I
You
don't
know?
write. I write
Yeah.
comedy.
I
I
write
write
comedy.
sketches.
I write stupid stuff, right?
I get it. If you would have told me I had a paranormal podcast, I'd have been like, nah, I won't.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. You're like, "Hey."
Well, that
So
is
anyway,
awesome. That is
thank
so
you
awesome.
so much. Thank you.
Thank
I know
you.
I appreciate your patience too, because a lot of people that listen to the story, their eyes just start glazing over because they're like, okay, because it's not all just, I don't talk just about the stuff that's happened in the house. I definitely, honestly, I am more fascinated by the history of this house
I love the history. I
than
love
I
history.
am the paranormal stuff that's going on. The history to me is absolutely incredible. Next year, I'm applying for a historical plaque from the state of Texas.
Oh,
We're
cool.
going to call it the Kennedy Monroe House. So we're going to honor Anna
I
Lubbock
love
Kennedy,
that.
also Harold Monroe, the author, because Harold actually wrote a column called "It's Only Money" in the Fort Worth Star Telegram for like 20 years here. It was a daily column. So he was a kind of a known person in this area when people actually read newspapers.
Huh.
So yeah, so we're gonna tell a little bit about Anna and who she was, and then we're gonna tell a little bit about Harold and who he was on the plaque. And yeah, it's again something I never thought that would happen in my lifetime, but it's exciting because you also get the state of Texas like, dedicates the house. There's a ceremony. Neighbors come, they put the plaque up.
That is
Yeah,
so cool. I hope that happens for you. That is so cool. And
thank you.
just the feeling that I get Harold is he wants almost like to make it right. You know what I mean? Like I don't even know why I said that, but that is the feeling that I just got like telling the story. It kind of, I don't know. I don't even know how to word it, but it's almost like feeling something that was missing in his life. Does that make
Yeah,
sense? Or did I just
maybe.
sound
I mean,
crazy?
no, because think about it. Something did happen in his life where he
Hmm.
actually abandoned his family and changed his
Right.
name and had a new family.
There was something missing there.
Something
And
happened. I mean, I
yeah.
don't know. And I have had contact with his son who's still alive. His son was actually gracious enough to give us the original chandelier to the house that we have up from
Oh,
1911.
wow.
It was covered in black smoke. It was like covered in tar. It was so in such a bad condition. But he gave it to us. It's like, I don't know if you guys can use this. Or so I spent a month like fixing it up, trying to polish it, get all like cleaning it up, and then we got it rewired and we now have it hanging back up in
Yeah.
the original spot that it always had been. So we were so happy that he gave it to us. But he had told us some stories because I actually asked him, I'm like, is this house haunted? I asked him because when my dog
Yeah.
was not sleeping in my bedroom, I messaged him on Facebook and I said, hey, is there something weird here? Because my dog doesn't sleep in my bedroom, and I don't
Right.
know, And he said, well, all I know is if there are spirits in this house, and it's my mom and dad, they loved dogs. And then he told me that's when he told me that his mom and dad both passed away in the family room. Interestingly enough, that's where my dog would go every night.
Did they have the German Shepherd?
They didn't have a German Shepherd, but they had a border collie. But I did find out there used to be a German Shepherd next door that was kind of a menace to the neighborhood. Yes,
Wow.
that's when Walt actually had lived here. So the house next door that I told you about that burned down in the 70s,
Hmm.
they used to actually have a German Shepherd that lived there at that house, who's no longer living now. But yeah, so we do know of one German Shepherd that had died that lived next door, but we don't know. She said it's a German Shepherd, so I'm just going to go with what the medium says.
That's right. Yeah. You just believe, sometimes with mediums and psychics, it's just like, okay, open faith. Until I know otherwise, I'm going to believe what you
About it,
sense and believe
of
and
course.
hear and feel. And I mean, you have to trust them. I did not want to bring this up in the beginning of the episode, just in case you didn't notice, but I struggled with technical difficulties and audio issues through that whole episode. He warned me that it was a good possibility because when you deal with a haunted house, that is the risk you take. And I definitely did. And our Zoom meeting promptly cut off right where that ended. But what an amazing episode. Thank you, Brian, for coming on and telling us all about the house that inspired the novel Ghostwriter. Guys, go follow Brian and the haunted house, his personal haunted house at Ghostwriter House on Instagram and TikTok. It is amazing. And you can also purchase the book Ghostwriter on Amazon. It is a horror novel, guys. So just be warned, it is a horror novel inspired by the paranormal activity that took place and also everything that he talked about in the area. So go check it out, Ghostwriter House on Instagram and TikTok. While you're there, come follow me, come interact with me, come talk to me, come say hello. I love meeting my listeners. Ghost Gossip Pod on TikTok, Ghost Gossip Podcast on Instagram, and Ghost Gossip 24/7 on YouTube. You can also email me at ghostgossip247@gmail.com. And if you would like to be a guest or have any ghost stories you want to share with me for a Listener Happenings episode, you can send me that there. If you feel so inclined, give me a 5-star review. Tell everybody about me. Tell your friends, tell your mama and them. And until next time, they'll see you later.